Jai Shri Ram. I'm Krupa Shankar here with you. And if you ever have to talk or write on the topic culture, now in the GRE and in the GMAT, there are many essay topics on culture. The topics usually would be if you want to study, if you want to know culture, you must study at least one other culture which is different from your own. And then you must study the trends of the youth to know the culture. You must study the cities to know the culture. You must study the heroes and heroines of a society in order to know their culture. Broadly, these are the topics. Now, culture is obviously not so easily understood and explained. So there are certain things which we need to keep in mind. These are some technical terms: mentifacts, sociofacts, artifacts, and semiotics. These are actually portmanteau words, which means two words or three words have been taken together, fused together, and a new word is created. So remember, if you can, these four terms. To understand any culture, you must first know their mentifacts, which means their mental facts, which means their belief systems, their ideologies, their philosophies, their dogmas, their whatever connected with thinking. Okay. And well, you can use your imagination to include all those things that pertain to thinking and believing. So for example, every student must know what is the meaning of the American dream. So the American dream simply can be defined as uh, setting up a meritocratic society so that anyone who is talented and willing to work hard will find every opportunity to become prosperous. That's the American dream. In one word, meritocracy. Meritocracy, ruled by the most meritorious. So America has achieved quite a lot in this direction. Of course, there are many people who still feel that it's a dream. That's why you have to close your eyes. So, well, there are people who will always complain. So America, though it's a fledgling democracy, 250 years old only, it is the youngest democracy, or probably the oldest democracy. India is considered a young democracy. Well, democracy originated in India because we had democracy even in the Vedic period. So unfortunately, our history was written by rascals, colonized, people who had a colonial mentality, who wrote crap actually. So let's not get into that now. So the American dream you have understood. If anybody asks you what do you understand by the American dream, in one word you can say, well, meritocracy, ruled by the most meritorious. That means there's no reservation, no affirmative action program. Of course, in America they have this affirmative action, which is another term for reservation, the term we use in India. So that is there for some people of certain races who need assistance in certain areas, but not in all areas. Okay, so now, so if you do not understand the concept of the American dream, you cannot claim to know America, right? So the founding fathers of the American Constitution, the founding fathers of the American charters, CHARTERS. A charter is an official document. America has got three charters: the Constitution of America, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. Three. The Charter of India would simply refer to the Constitution of India. Okay. Now, let us now take a look at that is mentifacts. I suppose you have understood the religions people follow, their ideologies, their philosophies, their mottos, the symbols. What are the national mottos of America? They have got two. E pluribus unum is the de facto motto, that means the actual motto, one among many. We also have a similar idea, we call it unity in diversity, but they are translating it as one among many, emphasizing the oneness. That means you can retain your individuality, you will be under no compulsion to change your religion or whatever. So e pluribus unum can be found on every dollar, greenback, or specie, which means a coin, on the reverse, and on the obverse, that is the heads, the American de jure motto, the official motto. The official motto is "In God we trust." In God we trust. So there is a very deep philosophy in all these ideas. So if you can delve into that, You can understand the psyche of the American founding fathers. And if you find that something is wrong in American society, you can actually remind them of these glorious mottos. There is another one, you see, the Great Seal of America, Annuit Coeptis. That is, Providence is aiding our endeavors. And so, and then you have this Novus Ordo Seclorum. That's another American motto found on the, I think, the rivers of the Great Seal of America. A new order is born. So, in India, we have Satyameva Jayate, Nanratam Satyena Pantha, Nanratam Satyena Pantha. That means truth alone triumphs, not untruth. Satyameva Jayate, Nanratam Satyena Pantha. So, if you can understand the mantifacts of a people, then you can claim to understand how they think and their philosophy. Socio-facts pertain to the academic system, the legal system, the political system, and the architecture of the cities. In every culture, you will find these things are completely different. Artifacts simply means man-made objects of art, which means it includes all arts. Arts includes sculpture, architecture, painting. These three are called fine arts. Sculpture, architecture, painting. Dance, drama, music, and movies too can be included under art. So you have to examine all these to understand the culture of a society. Then comes semiotics, which means the symbols. What do these symbols and colors imply? So in India, for example, Bhagwa, saffron, ochre is there on the flag. Bhagwa is the embodiment of Hindu culture. Bhagwa represents Agni, fire, in a crude sense. Agni is a much more complicated philosophical concept. Anyway, Bhagwa stands for fearlessness and being detached, because fire does not get attached to anything. And the third, fire purifies, so purifying. So a Hindu who is truly an authentic Hindu will try to live up to these three aspirations of the Bhagwa Kala. That means whatever he does, wherever he goes, he will purify in every sense of the word possible. He will have a therapeutic presence anywhere and everywhere. And then he is fearless because he will utter the truth irrespective of the consequences. He will have that zivil courage, you can call it zivil, Z-I-V-I-L. Zivil courage means the courage of one's convictions, the courage to speak the truth. The truth, not dogma, some silly meaningless dogmas which are irrational, and when people don't apply their critical thinking, they end up trusting rubbish from holy books which are full of lechery, butchery, treachery, bigotry and absurdities. So a Hindu will never hesitate to question any absurdity. However holy the other fellow might think that book is, we will rip them apart. We are fearless. So that's the true nature of a Hindu. Unfortunately, many Hindus today are not able to live up to this because of the need for political correctness. Okay, I love political incorrectness. I'll tell you the truth flat on your face. But if I can suspect, if I can, intuit that you will not be able to handle the truth, then I will never tell you the truth, because I don't want to get into trouble. You will go for my neck. Well, what next? So the Bhagwa color or saffron stands for fearlessness, being totally detached and purifying. And the white is for purity, and white is for unity, and the green for agriculture, fertility. So these are, similarly in the American flag, you have red, blue, white, and so all these colors have very deep symbolism. So in order to understand America, you must get into the deeper meanings of all these, the color symbolism. So I explained mantifacts. Next is socio-facts. That I already told you. So artifacts and semiotics are the symbols. So look at the symbols. See, in some cultures you have symbols which are very philosophically sublime and lofty, but in some cultures you will find symbols which actually suggest a kind of backwardness, violence. I don't want to name them. I leave it to your imagination to understand. You can understand the culture by looking at the symbols that they espouse. In India, our symbols are the lotus flower. In fact, the lotus symbolizes the Hindu culture so very well. The lotus blooms even if there is mud all around it. That means, irrespective of the environment, the Hindu has to rise to certain spiritual loftiness, which is a very, indeed, a very sublime philosophical ideal. So, I'll leave it there. Now that's about culture. Now cities, if you study cities, you will not really be able to understand culture, because cities are where culture evolves. A city is something like a laboratory of culture, because people of different cultures, religions, and they all come together, live together, and there is a spillover effect, and people learn from each other. So culture keeps evolving in a city. In a way, culture is static in the villages, so you got to go to the villages too to know what the culture truly is and how it is evolving in the cities. Trends of youth, again, are a symptom of snobbery. You know, youth keep imitating whatever they think is more stylish and what can confer them some extra status. So it is a sign of immaturity. So trends of youth does not really represent culture at all. And the heroes and heroines, well, there are so many cinema heroes, film heroes whom we admire, but do they really represent our culture? No, not at all. So I think I've said enough, which you can understand. Now let's quickly look at these relationships. What is the first one? I think the first one was, yeah, relationships. In some cultures, you can read this carefully. Individualist, flat hierarchy, acquired status. Well, some cultures you find, Eastern cultures, especially Japanese and Chinese, you will find they are more group oriented, vertical hierarchy, given status. India is not exactly fitting into that group oriented vertical hierarchy and given status. It was never like that, though of course many writers of history have given us a bad name by writing rubbish. They have not read the Vedas, they don't know Vedic Sanskrit, and many rascals and scoundrels who pose as scholars and great reformers, they didn't know Sanskrit, but they wrote about us and they criticized us and ridiculed us, and many Hindus therefore converted to other religions, thinking that the other religions are better. This is the height of stupidity, idiocy, foolishness. Okay, those people who try to translate Vedas and Bhagavad Gita should have had the humility to confess that they don't know Sanskrit. How dare you, torture the text? Text torturing. That's why translators are traitors. Okay, well, anyway, broadly, Westerners think that Eastern cultures are group oriented, vertical hierarchy, given status, personal and physically close, whereas the Western are on the left side. Okay, communication, again, Eastern cultures are high context, effusive, spoken. Western are low context. Now, low context means an instruction is given and the person is expected to just follow that much. Whereas in India, Eastern cultures, we expect the other person to understand the context in which the instruction was given and act accordingly. So there is a lot of emphasis on the relationship and so many other factors. That's called high context. I think you understood. The meaning of life, again, it is they have this generalization that Eastern cultures are destiny oriented, fatalistic and risk averse, which is not true. Which is not true. So even in America, you will find many people who think that it's all about destiny and they are risk averse. So now I leave it to you. Now let's quickly turn. Time, monochronic, polychronic. Well, this is one thing I admit. Eastern cultures like Indian, Chinese, Japanese, all Eastern cultures are polychronic. We try to do different things at the same time. I think for the reason that it's not work that but people are more important. Suppose I have 5-6 people making demands on me. There is a call, there is a person, there is a customer, there is a staff, and there might be a dog also, my puppy. So I'll try to please everybody, because I think relationships are very important, because I'm an Easterner, Indian, Chinese. We place a lot of emphasis on relationships, but you will find in the Western culture they are monochronic. Of course, there are advantages of both being monochronic and polychronic. There are disadvantages too. I think you have sufficient understanding of the idea now. Being monochronic when you are dealing with your work, I think, is the good thing to do. But when dealing with people, I think we need to be polychronic. We Indians are polychronic, and we don't have to be apologetic about it. So again, the Eastern cultures, patience, long term, past, Western, they think that they're all speed and short term and future. There are upsides and downsides of both positions. Truth. Truth is relative, yes. We in Hinduism, we in all Eastern cultures, we know and accept that what might be true in one situation could be untrue, what is good in one could be wrong in another, and I think smart Americans do agree with that. I leave it. Now, presentation style. Again, you see the one on the right, low key, long, comprehensive to inform, logical structure. More Eastern cultures are more likely to fall into this category, and the Western ones are upbeat, short, selective. They kind of try to convince, and they have a creative structure. Oh, come on! So obviously, these things have been compiled by somebody with a Western orientation. So therefore, he has put a few positive spins on the things that are likely to be found in a Western culture, which I think you will not agree with. And once you go abroad, you will realize and you will actually feel proud that you are a Hindu. Jai Shri Ram. Thank you very much. This should enable you to write a good essay on culture.